Folks, David here on the Vintage Future once again, and today I want to do a quick review on these Viberg 1035 service boots. So just a quick rundown on these boots, and full disclosure, after I do this review, I'm going to move these on because I love the boots, they're great, but they don't fit. I found out that 1035 just doesn't work for my foot type. We'll get into that later, but yeah. So I'm going to do this review though because I want this little part of my journey to help you folks out. Maybe you're looking at 1035 and you don't know if this is good for your foot or not, so I want to give you my impressions on it. So yeah, I wore this for a while and was like, yeah, this is just not working out. But it was a good try. I'm glad I tried it. So let's break it down first and then I'll give you my impressions on the boot. So first of all, we've got a Ridgeway sole. There was another one with a day-night sole that was on the .com. This one is a collaboration that they did with Freenote Cloth. And Freenote decided to take this and put a Ridgeway sole on the same boot. A Ridgeway is, I don't know if it's exactly the same composition as Day-Night, but it's made by the same company. And if it's not exactly the same, it is almost exactly the same. And it acts very much the same. So a big misnomer, I just want you to know, is people think, oh, look at all this grip. This is going to have better grip than Day-Night. Well, if you're walking around on like loose dirt or something, that's totally true. As you can see, this is going to act like a commando sole, give you a lot more tread for things like that. Just like a mud tire has bigger tread than a street tire, so that a mud tire can act in the mud better, or the loose dirt better than a street tire. This is going to be the same. But if you're thinking that because of this, you're not going to slip on ice or tile the way we always slip on ice and tile with Day-Night, you would be wrong, because it's essentially is the same composition, like I was saying, and I find myself slipping around with this just as much as the Day-Night. Maybe everyone else has a different experience, but for me, it's been that way. So don't get Ridgeway if you're trying to solve for the slipperiness of Day-Night. Just get something else completely different. So that's that. Other than that, I really love Ridgeway. I think it's a good way to have a really luggy kind of sole, but without it looking decidedly construction or military. Because if you get the actual commando sole or a full lug sole, it just looks like you're wearing a combat boot or something. Whereas this, you could put it on a nicer boot, and from the side, for the most part, like this angle here, from the side, it just looks like a nice boot. But then when you turn it over and you're like, oh, look at all the lugs, which aren't really lugs, right? But you know what I mean. Anyways, Freenote Cloth did a collaboration with Viberg with this boot. 1035 last, same as the .com, but they put Ridgeway on it, and I'm a big fan. As usual, you got the leather midsole. They've got a wood shank in here, a leather toe puff, stitched down construction. This is really nicely done. Look at the high SPI there. Not everyone likes that, but I'm a big fan of the high SPI. In my opinion, at this point in the game, other than hand-welted companies, people who do stitch down by machine, Viberg can't be beat. They do higher SPI with a smaller shelf, much finer tolerances all around, and they do a pretty clean job these days. So currently, they're head of the pack when it comes to how nice their stitch down is. How hard would it be to resole this? That's another story. Because of the high SPI, like imagine trying to resole that and do a good job. Like, seems like it'd be almost impossible if you didn't do it by hand. So that could present issues down the road. But as far as the cleanliness of their work, that's pretty impressive in my opinion. This leather that the upper's made out of is Maryam Tannery, that's in Italy. Maryam Tannery Horsebutt. This is not their Vachetta, which is just raw. This is called TPR. That stands for thermoplastic resin. In other words, when they're all done, they put this thermoplastic resin over the top, which adds this other shade, which is why, even though I barely wore these, you see like two tones here. Like, see right here, it looks like the dye came off. That's not actually the dye coming off. I was talking to some friends on the Stitch Down Discord, and they were saying that that's actually just the TPR. So it's like the TPR coating, and then beneath that would be the dye, and then the raw leather beneath that. And so, I mean, honestly, if you're going to do, like, say, the Stitch Down Patina Thunderdome this next year, the 2022-2023 event, something like this could actually be really cool, because especially if it was a dark brown like this or like a black, you would get this sort of T-core effect super fast. Like, I only wore these a few times, and as soon as they got wet, like I walked through wet grass, it just whoosh, started to take that TPR off. So That might not be your thing, but if it is, this is a really cool way to get that effect really fast. And as you can see, these rolled really nicely. Maryam is a horsebutt leather that I've had, let's see, in total, I think 5 or 6 different boots in. And the quality of the Maryam hides has always been really good. Obviously, always subject to clicking, but I've never had a bad experience with Maryam horsebutt. The one thing I will say is the dyes that they use often come out much more easily than something like, say, a Horween leather. And Aero Surfer LV, Dale has some really good videos on that, like with his Color 85 Trumans and stuff. But overall, Maryam's really good. So anyways, you got your external heel counter here. You've got your 7 brass eyes. The size is 7 AA of those eyes. I put some guarded goods laces, but you know, they come with flat wax cloth laces and some rawhide laces, typical of Viberg. This is a floating tongue. It's not gusseted, lined on the inside of the tongue, but not lined on the inside of the rest of the boot until you get to the vamp. So the shaft is unlined, but the whole vamp is lined. And other than that, it's pretty much a standard Viberg. So what do I think about the fit and the leather and all that? So first of all, the leather. Muschio Horsebutt is, I'd say, like a true brown. It's like right in the middle there. Not quite as dark as like a coffee or Java brown, but it's not red, really. And it's definitely not a light brown like Tuscanello Horsebutt or Natural Chrome Excel or anything like that. This is like right in the middle. It's a beautiful leather. You can't really tell in this lighting, but if you look at some pictures here, like I had these 2030s in my hand for a split second because they sent me the wrong order at one point, and you can see in these pictures just the absolute beauty of this Muschio. So in my opinion, the Muschio color is probably one of the underrated colors, and it doesn't photograph super well, which is, I think, part of the reason. So that's kind of on Viberg or whoever's selling the boot to take good photos so they can show you how beautiful it is. But people often go for the Tuscanello, and I think the Muschio is really where it's at, whether it's TPR or Vachetta. So anyways, the leather I love. I had no issues with that. I overall love the makeup, but the issue with me was the fit. So my Brannock is a heel to ball of 10.5C, almost a D, and a heel to toe of 10C, almost a D. And this is all US sizing. So on a Brannock device, that's my measurements. I've got a flat foot. I've got a low instep, really skinny ankles, that narrow width. My toe spread, you know, my footprint is basically normal, other than, you know, my big toes want to go straight forward. They don't curve in and they don't curve out. So pretty normal footprint, honestly. But this is a big last. For a service boot last, this is a pretty high volume last. If you look here, you can see the width of this heel cup here. It's pretty big, and it's kind of like a ball, you know, big baseball. And so my heel tends to float around in there, and it's a wide width here, and my feet tend to flop around just a little bit in there. And the instep is a bit high for my low instep. So even when I cinch up the laces like this, you know, they close almost all the way. And I just never get a good grip. So my foot's sliding around and stuff. My foot tends to slide forward so that my big toe wants to like kind of bump into the end here. It's just not a good fit, you know. I could do things to make it work. I could put in an insert or thick socks, but I don't really like to fiddle around with that stuff anymore. If a boot doesn't fit, I try to, you know, sell it to somebody who can really make some good use out of it. So anyways, that's the reason I'm offloading these. Size 10 is the right size, typically with 1035, just like most Vibergs. You want to go a half size down from your Brannock, or you want to go a full size down from your Brannock, and that's all kind of dependent on your width. If you're going to go if you're going to go any further down than that, you're probably using the wrong last. You probably just need to find a different last. Like instead of this or 2030, if you feel like you need to go further down than one down from Brannock, you need to be buying like a 2020 for your narrow, small foot. Or if this is just not big enough, you need to be going for one of their bigger boots. I mean, this is a pretty big boot, honestly. But yeah, some guys say they might go true to size if they've got like this huge foot. That's probably okay, but really you want to be like right at half down from Brannock, and you could go half up or half down from that. Anything else other than that, you're really pushing it. So as a size 10 with my 10.5/10 Brannock, this size 10 was sized correctly. I tried a 9.5 before I tried this and decided I didn't like it. It's just that the last is not working for my foot. So quality, as I've said recently on some other Viberg videos, is better. Viberg has consciously decided to slow down production so they can focus on quality a little more. And I mean, it's funny though too, with inflation and all that, they, like everybody else, have been also raising their prices. So it's kind of like one of those things. It's like, do you get more for the money? Not necessarily, because they also raised the prices on us. But everyone's really doing that. Even if they haven't yet, everyone's prices are gradually going up. You know, I talked to a guy that's been doing this much longer than me, and he was saying that he used to buy shell cordovan Aldens for like $400 or $500 10, 15 years ago. Those same shell cordovan Aldens, they run like anywhere between $800 to $1,000 now, right? And he said you could just walk into a store and just buy rare, what we call now is rare shell. You just walk into almost any main Alden shop and just buy it right off the shelf. And now, you know, it's this huge like frenzy to get it. But anyways, so regardless of price though, I would say you can buy Viberg products and feel really good about it these days. I've, you know, the last like, I don't know, 10 or 15 pairs that have gone through my hands have been markedly better than all the previous ones. So that's good news. Especially if you get them used, it's pretty good. So yeah, so that's the deal. Oh, one other thing I didn't like, I like the leather toe puffs. However, when they get wet, they just collapse. So that made me really appreciate Celastic and also the ping pong, the thermoplastic, because those do collapse, but they still hold their structure a bit. You could always get this wet and restructure it, but I didn't really want that. On the other hand, short of a totally unstructured toe, if you like that collapsed look, leather toe puff is pretty nice because it's kind of the cheat code, right? You just get it wet, you know, if you're walking through the rain or through wet grass or whatever, and it'll just start to collapse and take the shape of whatever is in there, which hopefully is your foot or a shoe tree. So yeah, really nice rolls and stuff, but I don't like how that collapsed onto my toe. But yeah, other than that, really good pair of boots, and not sure exactly who will end up with them, but they'll end up with a really nice pair. I'm going to clean these up, put some severe renovator on them, and really try to get a good product to somebody who's going to love them for years to come. So that's my impression on the 1035. Be looking for some other videos from me on all kinds of different other ones that I have, 2020, 2030, 2040, 310, all that. The goal is to have at least one video for each of these main lasts on my channel. So hope you enjoyed that, and until next time, let your boots take you to places more important than the boots themselves.